Hi, I'm Philippe with the Real Estate Inspection Company with your Maintenance Minute. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to replace a toilet fill valve. That's the piece of hardware inside the toilet tank that fills it back up with water after you flush. If you hear water running for a long time after you flush, or you hear water running all night long, it probably means that the toilet fill valve is worn out. Just go to your local hardware store and buy a universal fill valve kit. They're really easy to install, and they shouldn't require any tools at all. It is a good idea to have a pair of wide mouth pliers or channel locks available, as some of the old components may be hard to remove. But other than that, all you need is a plastic bucket or pail to catch any dribbling water and a towel to wipe up any water that spills. Let's take this inside and I'll show you how to replace it. As you can see, this fill valve has stopped working properly. It just lets the water keep flowing and flowing and flowing, and it's simply pouring down the drain, which is going to cost us a lot of money and water. And the worst case is if this becomes clogged, it could flood the house. So the first thing I'm going to do is shut the water off to the toilet. Now before I get started removing the toilet fill valve, I'm going to place my bucket or pail underneath the toilet where the hose meets the tank so that it catches any water that drips out after I disconnect it. Now I'm going to flush the toilet to get as much water out of the tank as possible. As you can see, there's about 3/4 to an inch of water that remains, and that's the reason for the bucket underneath the water, because as soon as I loosen this up, that water is going to run out and it would go onto the floor if we don't have that. So to remove the old fill valve, I simply reach under and unscrew the old hose. You can see the water start to drip. This is why a towel is a good idea as well. And we just have to move the hose, and then there's another nut that holds the fill valve in place, and place that in the pail as well. The kits come with a new flapper valve, so we're going to go ahead and replace the flapper valve while we're doing this, and we're going to do that first so we have more room to work. Alright, so now I'm going to remove the old flapper valve by just simply removing it from the little pivot points on there and disconnecting the chain from the flush handle. And I'm just going to place the new one right over those hinge pins, and I'm going to estimate where the chain needs to be, and I'm going to go ahead and shorten that by about 6 or 7 links. Otherwise the chain can get caught underneath the flapper and continue to run. Then I'm going to just simply connect it to one of the holes in the flush arm. So this is a newer style fill valve than what you might be accustomed to. You may be used to the ones with a float that rides up and down with the level of the water. I'm hoping that these are a little bit more durable and last longer. First thing we have to do is adjust the height of the fill valve so that it fits the tank on our toilet. And all of these fill valves are adjustable like this. So I'm going to extend it all the way. And if you notice, it's marked water level right here on the side. And I'm going to try and match that mark up with the height of the spill tube. So I'm going to put it in the hole at the bottom of the tank, and I'm simply going to push it down until it is at the same height as the spill tube. Once I'm comfortable that those two are the same height, I'm going to take it back out and turn it about a quarter turn and lock it into position. Now I'm going to use the supplied nut that is also marked this side up. This is going to go underneath the tank and thread onto the bottom of the fill valve, and that's what's going to actually hold it to the tank. So I'm going to put the valve back in through that hole and put the nut on. Now when you tighten this, you don't want to over tighten this. You run the risk of cracking the toilet tank. Thread it on all the way until it stops, and then maybe 1/8 of a turn more. Now we're going to connect the refill tube. This is a very important component because it's what actually puts water into the bowl and enables the toilet to flush properly. Without it, you won't get enough water in the bowl and the toilet won't work effectively. Now I like to put the refill clip on first because it's kind of difficult. You really have to fight with it a little bit, but you can get it on there with a little bit of effort and make sure it's well seated. And then we're going to put the other end of the hose onto the refill port. This is where the water comes out, flows down the tube and into the spill tube here. Now you want to support the fill valve so that you don't put too much pressure on it. And we're going to slide it over the port like this. Now many people install the clip incorrectly and allow the water to spray from the refill tube into the tank. It really needs to fill the bowl by pouring down the tube. So we're going to click it on to this side so that it's aiming right down the spill tube. Occasionally the tube may be too long out of the box and would create too high of a loop and interfere with the tank lid. So in some cases you may have to cut that, which you can do with just a simple pair of household scissors. Now the final step is to reconnect the water supply to the bottom of the valve. And just like the other nut, you want to tighten this all the way till you meet resistance, and then about another quarter turn or so. You do not want to over tighten these. Now let's turn on the water and see if it works. As you can see, we've adjusted the valve well so the water stops just before it reaches the top of the spill tube. If it spills over, you're going to need to adjust the height of the valve, and that will require you to shut off the water and readjust the length of the valve. So there you have it, another successful do-it-yourself job. Like all do-it-yourself jobs, there's sometimes a little bit of trial and error, but with a little practice, you'll become very proficient at it, and you save a lot of money. One thing with plumbing, whenever you do a plumbing project, make sure you go back and check it after about a half an hour and make sure nothing's dripping. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Maintenance Minute, and check back often for a lot more tips. We'll see you next time.